I had to ascend 6 levels from my starting point when I had my first run-in with non-brainery fly life. My mind had almost tried to brush it off as a rat. At first, a tiny white shape scurrying in my perpetual vision. We both froze when I moved for a closer look. The odd little being was just a few inches tall, pale and vaguely humanoid, with a large and nearly symmetrical head. It reminded me strongly of one of the eggheads, but there was a little chance that this thing ever to be human. There should have been eyes, but there were a pair of gaping, bloody-looking holes, and its mouth was a simple circular hole in its pale, translucent little hands. It carried a hunk of meat. It didn't look dangerous, but it could have breathed fire for all I know. I cautiously raised my shovel and took a step back, not wanting to arouse any of aggression, and the diminutive imp jerked into motion. In an instant, it crammed into the meat of one of the empty eye holes and took a flying leap off the catwalk, landing with a soft, wet splat, the lower level scampering off into the darkness. From that point on, the tiny creatures seemed to be everywhere. I'd catch them for watching me from around the corners, or busily snatching scraps of food from the conveyor belts. I suppose that rat comparison wasn't that far off, but the brain flies flew, and the little goblin things were only vermin. Exactly who or what had the catwalks to be constructed for? I would only get my answer soon enough. Following the airborne river of winged brains, I ultimately brought up to what seems to be the first steel wall, held together in colossal beams of rivets. To either side, it appeared to be gradually curved away, the exterior of roughly circular structure. High above me, my steam of brain flies were pounding through the grated porthole 100 feet wide. Gaps were just large enough to accommodate model of their wingspans. I could only make out additional portholes to my instant left and right. More slimly flocks streaming in. This had to be it. Home base, the mothership. The catwalk continued, though significantly smaller porthole, into something like vast stadium. Distant electric lights, confirmed to be a circular shape, about a mile across. Its floor was solid, polished concrete, as its ceiling was obscured by the tormental storm of living bodies. Dozens of brainfly streams converging into the open roof, a looming concrete tube at the center of it. A good 20 stories high, an eerie green glow poured from the top of the monolithic tower, like some sort of doorway to another realm. A wormhole back to whatever the obscene universe the thing was truly to call home. A free testimonial web of suspended pathways encircled it, intertwining with the network immense grimace pipes a semi could even driven through. It was also significant and horrific. I almost didn't realize that I was still moving forward, my jaw hanging in a dumb fascination. Or did I immediately grasp for the significance of metallic sound coming from behind me? It sounded like a gate being shut. My brain muffled over to the thought of a few moments before wheeled down the rush of panic. The tunnel had indeed closed off. A soft roar of the brainfly tornado was joined by a new sound, unlike the bleating of an alarm bell. Then came the meat. I had a good sense to start running and moving as soon as the nearest gaping pipe began to shudder and gurgle, trickling a thin stream of red-brown slime for a few moments, before finally erupting with torrent chunky sludge, all meat, and meat juice. A few yards away, another pipe vomited to life. At first I thought the intention would be to drown me, but I didn't doubt for a second that there was enough meat in that factory plumbing in to fill the place completely. But it wasn't as quickly as apparent as my demise wouldn't be so simple. The meat seemed to spread out much further then the gravity could disintegrate wherever I am. It seemed to run and directly towards me, wind diving in the streams like a pseudopods of enormous anobia. Not my imagination. It was the worst case scenario, but at this point far from surprising. I had already been seeing moving, twitching things come out of the takeout windows. Things that couldn't possibly have been alive, but wriggled frantically as if they were torn apart and devoured the increasingly fatter, greasier mouths of my neighbors. A chain of green-tinged sausages rose shakily from the nearby heap, and an intoxicated cobra. I gagged a little, emerging mostly from the outer edges of the chamber. Having the flesh was forcing me closer towards the tower, where I have no choice but to ascend to the catwalks. I was probably going to die either way, and it was probably going to be hideous. At least I might sneak a little glimpse at this alien world on my way out.